Welcome back to the House of Hoosier podcast presented by the Field of 68 Podcast Network. I'm Ian Plaskoff. That's Noah Gerkey, and off we go with a week recap. And Noah, this has been a really fun week of Indiana basketball, and I don't know if there has been a week like this, just on broad terms, in years, from an offensive standpoint at least. But we'll break down the Marquette game from this past Sunday. We'll break down the Milwaukee game. We're recording this the day after the Milwaukee game. And lots to break down, lots of points, and lots of ways that those points were scored. So, Noah, just first thoughts generally. I mean, this week was just, it was a blast to watch.
Yeah, 201 points in a span of two basketball games. I mean, this team is a joy to watch on offense in particular, but really overall. And this is a week where you go to Chicago in a neutral site, a pretty good Marquette-sized crowd, pretty good Indiana-sized crowd as well. And you have the performance due there. And then you back it up with a team that's picked to win the Horizon League and you beat them by 31 points. I mean, it was about as good of a week as you could have had for Indiana basketball.
If for those of you listening, I mean, you probably share the same sentiment. I'm just blown away by the style of play that we're seeing by the home team at Simon Scott Assembly Hall because this is just different than what we've seen in a long time. I mean, we're seeing unselfish play, we're seeing guys play the right way, we're seeing guys pass the ball, shoot the lights out, play fast, and we're not seeing like 10-second post possessions. We're not seeing these terrible turnovers, and we're not seeing long mid-range jumpers, except for Milwaukee, which we'll get to, which they we'll get to that. The Panthers are a fun team. But at any rate, just the newness of all of this is just really striking to me, and it hasn't quite set in yet that this is Indiana basketball now, and it can be for the long term. And I don't know, for those of you listening at home, I don't know if you share the same sentiment. No, I don't know about you either.
Yeah, it's taken some time because you see other teams do it all the time, and it's like this is what basketball looks like. You always turn on March Madness and you see Kansas, North Carolina, all those teams running up and down the floor, Florida last year, and you were like, "Huh, I wonder what it's like to probably be a fan of a team like that. Like, I wonder how much fun they have during the year." And now we're getting to experience it, and it's like this doesn't feel right. That style of play should not be in cream and crimson jerseys. And it's like taking me aback a little bit, but it's a complete 180. There's no more dribble handoffs from 35 feet away from the hoop, back and forth until somebody can get a post touch. They're getting up and down their floor. They're shooting a bunch of threes, and the bunch of threes that they're taking are going in. It's taken me some time, but I think I'm gonna like it a lot faster than I would have ever imagined.
We'll start to break down these two games this week. We'll start back to the United Center in Chicago. I was not there. I was on the drive back from the Penn State football game, which, if you're a double Indiana basketball, Indiana football fan, which I hope you are, you know that that was something for sure. Noah, you were at the United Center. Before we get into the actual game itself, just the atmosphere, the game presentation, it's kind of a new thing that Indiana did with these one-off. It was called an invitational, but it was not an invitational. Just yeah, you're what you saw from there.
It was cool. I felt like it was in a pretty good location at the United Center. It's a big NBA arena, and it's probably 65 to 35% Indiana fans versus Marquette fans. But the Marquette fans were loud. I mean, they showed up. You expected it at a neutral site between two programs that historically have been pretty good. Marquette more so of recent than Indiana, I suppose. But the presentation was fine. The best part of the entire thing was the trophy that Tucker DeVries got for the most valuable player was a United Center Employee of the Week or Employee of the Month trophy, one of those two. The actual trophy that was supposed to be for the Waterkeep Alliance Invitational was stolen the night before at the Big X the Plug concert in Chicago. So when they were giving Tucker DeVries the trophy at center court, the guy who's holding the trophy is keeping his hand over the plaque and didn't let Tucker hold it because he's going to take his hand off and show the entire crowd that was there that is a United Center Employee of the Week trophy.
Well, Tucker DeVries was the employee of the day in the United Center for Indiana. Technically, you can call them employees now because of the whole money thing, NIL, whatever. We won't get into that. But Tucker DeVries, that was the second of two performances that landed him Big Ten Co-Player of the Week. He led all scorers with 27 points on 9 of 15 shooting, 6 of 9 from three in that game. That's a crazy story. It really is. How do you get the trophy stolen? Like, where is
I
it being kept? Who's guarding it? Where? Just too many questions.
Good on the United Center for finding a backup plan, finding the United Center Employee of the Week, Employee of the Month, whatever trophy it was. Good on them for finding it and making work with it. But I was down courtside by the tunnel where Indiana would come out towards like the last 2 minutes of the game because we had to get the pressures in the lounge. And I just look on the table and there's the trophy that the guy's getting ready to take, and it just says Employee of the Month or the Week. I don't remember, but I I don't know how that happens. I don't know. It's a one-off invitational game. It's not a big tournament, so it's not a huge trophy, a huge deal. But yeah, that's just not a good look, but it's a funny story, you know.
Back to the attendance numbers, you said 65-35. The official attendance, according to whoever put this into the stat broadcast for the official number, was 14,017. The United Center does hold, well, like 21, 22.
Something like that, yeah.
So that's
The whole third level probably wasn't filled, but I mean, the entire lower two levels were like filled to the brim. It was nice.
compared to the Baylor exhibition, that is as good as it gets. I mean,
Yeah, I think tickets were a little bit cheaper, and also it's a regular season game. I felt like we already talked about this earlier. If you watch our Baylor one, $25 or $50 for an exhibition nosebleed seat is absolutely ridiculous. And having an arena like the United Center, especially off of the weekend, I wonder if the way Indiana football won on Saturday was kind of like, hey, let's go to basketball on Sunday. Like, why not? You know? So the attendance was nice, and it's a lot better than the one-off exhibition they had in Indianapolis.
this is another funny story. You bring up football. The Indiana basketball team delayed their flight by faking somebody having like some kind of logistical issue on the tarmac, and it was so they could watch the final drive as Indiana beat Penn State. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Student athletes supporting other student athletes, especially with the type of season Indiana football has had, and then just the delaying of the flight is just like what a crazy weekend. You get an employee of the week or month trophy. You delay your flight because you say someone's got an issue, but you're really just watching the football game. Like football team pulls off the game that they did on Saturday. Just a great weekend.
Yeah, DeVries said the plane took off and they lost Wi-Fi right as the ball fell to the ground on the Hail Mary attempt from Penn State. So the timing was just perfect. We'll jump into this Marquette game after we just talked about everything surrounding it. It was a 100-77 win, Indiana over Marquette. The shooting numbers were ridiculous again, as they have been for all three games for Indiana. 50% from the field, 33 of 66. 50% from three, 14 of 28. And 20 of 24 from the free throw line. Only 8 turnovers against Marquette. Did not get the rebounding edge, but that's to be expected with the size on this team, and it's obviously outweighed by other strengths that Indiana has. Marquette only shot 37% from the field, 22 of 59. They were 4 of 16 from three, 29 of 33 from the free throw line, and turned the ball over 15 times. I want to start with these free throw numbers. 57 combined free throw attempts, and I was listening to the Don Fisher call on the drive back from Penn State, and he was fed up with the referees. But it's something to keep an eye on with this Indiana team because when the pace gets slower, that's when this team starts to struggle a little bit more because they can't get out in transition, they can't space the floor as well and play as fast and get those shooters open.
Yeah, the foul trouble was an issue for both sides. I think Marquette was in the bonus with maybe like 12 or 13 minutes left in the first half. Like Reed Bailey had two fouls in the first minute and a half. It was an issue on both sides, but it was kind of a nice showing for Indiana because they had to deal with so much foul trouble. They're only playing 8 guys at the time because Nick Dorn, who we'll talk about later, wasn't available. So they're only playing 8 guys. They're dealing with foul trouble, and it was kind of promising to see like, hey, they're finding ways to get it done. And shooting that many free throws, honestly, for Indiana teams in the past may have been a bad thing if you're shooting 27 free throws because you're probably missing 12 or 13 of them, and now you're giving away free points. But this Indiana team got knocked down their free throws, and so being able to kind of have those opportunities and to be able to draw fouls, get to the line was nice for them. But yeah, I can see why Don Fisher was fed up with the officiating because Marquette was in the bonus within the first 7 or 8 minutes of the game.
Well, regardless of Marquette making 29 free throws in this game, Indiana made 10 more three-pointers than the Golden Eagles did, and that's really all that matters. 14 of 28, and that's a significant shooting mark because that also happened in the Milwaukee game. 14 of 28 from beyond the arc. Lamar Wilkerson had six of those. He was 6 of 10 from downtown. Tucker DeVries had another six. He was 6 of 9. Connor Enright, of course, added the half-court shot, which we will talk about momentarily. And then Trent Sisley added the other three. Wilkerson and DeVries. It's so tough to guard that duo because one, they're not afraid to shoot, and two, when they do shoot, it has gone in more times than it has not.
Yeah, I tweeted it during the Marquette game. I said, I don't think it's crazy to say that wherever Tucker DeVries shoots the basketball in the court, I think it's going in. I don't care if it's a one leg fadeaway from 75 feet away. The way he was shooting the ball on Sunday, I felt like it was going to go in, and that was it. I didn't have to look down, didn't have to look anywhere else. I looked at the net and saw the ball fall out of the net. Those two are so difficult because they don't score necessarily in the same ways. They don't have to have the basketball in their hands to get open looks. Wilkerson's one of the best at getting himself open without having the basketball, running off of two screens, flaring a screen, just getting open space. And when he gets any sort of space, Coach DeVries said in the press conference, those two have the green light. I don't care if it's this much space. I don't care if it's 5 feet of space. Those two are two of the premier shooters in the conference. And if they have the green light, they're going to let it fly.
Against Marquette, they combined for half of Indiana's points. They scored 50 of Indiana's 100 points, DeVries 27, Wilkerson 23, and they combined for 34 field goal attempts of Indiana's 66. So it's about as close as you can get to those two being half of Indiana's offensive production. But that doesn't come without the 8 assists from Tatum Connerway, the 5 assists from Connor Enright, and Wilkerson also dished out 8 assists himself. Noah, I know you've been talking about assists as this early portion of the season has developed, and we'll talk about it more with Milwaukee as well. But this team moves the ball and plays unselfishly, and you look at Lamar Wilkerson shooting 19 shots versus Marquette. You look at Tucker DeVries shooting 15 shots versus Marquette, but it works, and that's just how it's gone. Whoever has the hot hand, that's who they're sticking with.
Yeah, and it seems like everybody on the floor knows who has the hot hand at any given time. Okay, Tucker's got two in a row. Let's get him the ball if we can. Okay, Lamar's hit three of his last four shots. Let's get him the rock. They have a good feel. And it's weird for having a team that hasn't played with each other a lot leading up or at all kind of leading up until this season. It's a brand new roster to kind of have that formality, to kind of have that not unselfishness to spread the basketball around and find the guys who are going to have the open look. Milwaukee last night did a pretty good job of trying to shut down Tucker DeVries, made that their defensive impact, and they knew they had to get the ball to Lamar Wilkerson, and Tate Conway stepped up too. So it's one of those things, this Indiana team, that they can hurt you in so many different ways. And Wilkerson getting 8 assists as well. He's not just a shooter. He's doing it in other ways. He's dumping it off to the big man. He's finding his other guards. He's out in transition, looking to make an extra pass. This team's just very unselfish, and we'll get to assists later, but 66 field goal attempts, you made 33 of them, and 27 of them had assists. Like, that's a great number. We'll talk about it more, but they're so unselfish. They're willing to pass up good shots for great shots.
Let's talk about one shot that you don't want to pass on, and that's when the clock is winding down under 2 seconds. Connor Enright, half quarter. I mean, just it's Connor Enright. I just had a feeling it was going to go in just because it was him, and it didn't look like he would even get the ball out of his hands before the buzzer went off. And sure enough, it happened.
It was kind of a big momentum builder. I mean, they're up 15. 15 feels fine, but the way the game was going, you're like, okay, Marquette's kind of hanging around. He hits the three-pointer. The place goes absolutely bananas, and they go up 18 in the half. And really, at that point, you don't want to say it's over that early on, but you could tell that there was a change in the tides, and it was pretty awesome to see. Back in his hometown, at least from the area, had a lot of family and friends in attendance, and that's a pretty cool shot to see.
Yeah, that was a pretty big momentum changer, and Enright is a very interesting role on this team, especially now with Nick Dorn being back. I do think Dorn will stay on the bench, and we'll talk about him with Milwaukee, but Connor Enright has shades of this is what I think I said this during the Alabama A&M game. I think I said he's a cross between Gabe Cupps and TJ McConnell, just with the style of play. Like he is a guy that he won't wow you with his scoring, but he will just be an absolute pest to whoever he's guarding, and it works.
He does absolutely everything else on the floor. And it's not that he can't score. We're just like he just doesn't at times. And he does everything else on the floor. He's a really good defender. He's up in you. He's making the right pass. And he honestly last night what impressed me most was his rebounding. Indiana was struggling with rebounding in the first half. He stepped it up in the second half. I think he pulled down 5 or 6 rebounds in the game yesterday. It was five. 5 rebounds from your guard was tied for the team lead in rebounds. Like he's willing to do everything on the floor to help Indiana win.
A couple more. We'll take a trip to the bench here as we talk Marquette. Trent Sisley had his best game at the time as a Hoosier, and I do think that remains. He was 7 to 12 from the field, 15 points off the bench, added 5 rebounds as well. He was 1 of 4 from three. Also, Sam Alexis had 13 points, 4 of 6, and that made up for Reed Bailey's 5 on 1 of 2 field goals. He was in foul trouble for a little bit in that first half. Um, this bench is very short, but when you can get Sisley rolling and get Alexis rolling, and we saw it again against Milwaukee, it takes a lot of the pressure off of these starters that may have to play extended minutes.
Yeah, especially when you get into foul trouble, having a guy like Trent Sissick that can go in and kind of help the offense keep pace a little bit, or at least be able to not be a step down necessarily when you pull one of your starters who's a good scorer off the bench. And even with Sam Alexis, he's probably got the highest motor on the team from what you can see. He just plays at such a high level. He's so intense on the glass as well. And just having that off the bench, having those guys that are ready to go from the get-go when they first get in the game and the whistle blows, that's huge for this Indiana team, especially while they're still trying to get people back from injury. We saw Nick Dorn a little bit against Milwaukee, but they've still got Jason Drake. They've still got Josh Harris coming back. Alexa Ristich, they're working guys back in. So to have those guys off the bench that kind of keep the same standard and can just flow right into the offense and the pace of play doesn't change at all and your defensive matchups can stay the same, your consistency's there. That's huge for this program and the team.
There's one more thing that I want to talk about with this Marquette game before we move on to Milwaukee. We were talking assists. Indiana had 27 in this game on 33 made baskets. Marquette had 10 on 22 made baskets. It, you don't really talk much about Indiana's defense because they score so much. And yes, Marquette did put up 77 points, but 29 of those were at the free throw line. When Marquette, who is a team that notably under Shaka Smart has been pretty efficient offensively and pretty unselfish and has had solid shooters, they're 37% from the field, 10 assists on 22 made field goals. I mean, the offensive game plan was just wrecked.
They also turned it over 15 times too, and a lot of them led to transition opportunities, which is one of those things you can't have for Indiana because if they're out and running, they're going to make you pay. The defense was a bright spot. Obviously, it's hard sometimes to get into a defensive rhythm when you're trying to feel out the officials and you pick up 7 fouls in the first 7 minutes. You got to match the physicality that the referees are going to allow you to do, and I think that was an adjustment Indiana later on made in the contest. And maybe Coach DeVries talked about it is, hey, the style of physicality we want to play can only go so far. We can't go over the line of what we're used to because the officials are like judging us this way. And their physicality switched. They flipped a switch in the second half. They played much better defensively. They got after it and they forced 25% shooting from three. It was an all-around performance. And you flip to the offensive side. I don't know if you were going to hit on it or not, but it's the first time a D1 team, a D1 Shaka Smart coach team has allowed 100 points in a game. First time ever.
Well, that's about all you need to know. This Indiana team is different than Indiana teams in the past. It has delivered against a Power Five team in Marquette. And we'll wrap it up with the Golden Eagles and move on to the Panthers, who, before we talk anything about Indiana, got to give Milwaukee some credit because that team was really fun to watch. And I think my new favorite mid-major player in college basketball is Amar Aguilar, who was wearing number 1 in black last night for the Panthers. The most reckless style of play of any basketball player I've ever seen, but he made shots and it was impressive. And that really went for the entire team. Seth Hubbard was knocking down mid-range after mid-range, and he fell to the ground, I think, on all of the 18 field goal attempts that he had after he shot them. Now, Milwaukee didn't shoot the ball extremely well, but The contests that they had to deal with were tough, and this Panther team, who's favored to win the Horizon League, got to give them their flowers because they were fun to watch.
Yeah, they made a lot of tough shots, and Jovanovic, I think is his name. He was at Miami, transferred to Louisville. He had that little one leg post fadeaway over everybody all night. It was incredible. And I think, at least from the eye, just the outside point of view, they maybe had 11, 12 open shots all night. Like they were tough, contested baskets. And they put up 70 points at Assembly Hall against an Indiana team that's defended at a pretty high level. They did turn it over 15 times, but of their 29 makes, I mean, they did not have many open looks and they were able to bury them. I'm excited to see what they're going to do in the Horizon League. They're a team that if they get into March can probably be very scary to some teams because they are high level shot makers and they put up a lot of 3-point shots. They didn't in this one because Indiana's game plan was kind of run them off the 3-point line. But they took that. They went to the mid range. They were in the post, hitting fadeaways. They hit some incredibly tough shots. They were a very fun watch.
Yeah, the Horizon League does not get talked about enough as it should. And also, I don't know if any Indiana fans care about IU Indy with any sort of the relation, but the system. Watch out for the system that's developing at IU Indy. They're going to score like 110 points a game. They press 94 feet regardless of the score, and it's just really fun to watch. As for Indiana University, not Indianapolis, the Bloomington location, Indiana 101 to 70 over Milwaukee, and the Hoosiers are averaging 99.5 points per game this season. When you're averaging as many points per game as what would qualify as a fever, you're probably doing something right. And this game was no exception. Indiana shot 57% from the field, 34 of 60. 50% from three. We mentioned this in the Marquette, or yes, the Marquette recap, 14 to 28, notable number. It's back-to-back games of 14 to 28. This was the one of the few downsides to this game, 19 of 27 from the free throw line, 70%. But everything else, I mean, maybe the rebounding, no, I don't know if you count that, even though they out-rebounded Milwaukee, but this just felt like a complete performance. And yes, the score reads 70 for Milwaukee, but we talked about it. They made tough contested shots. They were not easy, but Indiana played its game and its game delivered once again.
Yeah, the rebounding was maybe more so an issue in the first half. They had Milwaukee at 8 offensive rebounds, which like can't happen. Like there's like no excuse for that happening. At least when you're a power four team, you should not give up 8 offensive rebounds in the first half. Milwaukee crashed the glass. Of course, you have those wild shots they're taking that take a lot different bounces off the rim and off the backboard than you're accustomed just to regular shot taking. But I think in the first half, Reed Bailey maybe had 1 or 2 rebounds, and he was the tallest guy on the floor. It's like against these type of teams, you have to be able to like grab the rebound. You have to settle down a little bit. You got to be able to play under control, control the pace on the glass. And Indiana struggled to do that early on. And that was probably maybe your only complaint, the missed free throws. There was a little bit of foul trouble here and there. But they had Nick Dorn who got to play a little bit and take a little bit of weight off of some of those guys' shoulders, though he picked up 2 early fouls. But just an overall great performance. And then again, 14 to 28 from three. When you're knocking down 14 threes, you're not going to get beat by many people.
Going down the box score here, and we'll start out with the guy who had the United Center Employee of the Month trophy in Tucker DeVries. Off night for him. 4 of 10, 2 of 5 from three, only got going late, and it was pretty clear the game plan for Milwaukee was to corral him and force other guys to make shots, and they did. Lamar Wilkerson, another 24-point performance, 7 of 12 from the field, 5 of 6 from three, 5 of 8 at the line. And Tatum Connerway, this is where I want to focus in. Tatum Connerway, 21 points, 6 assists, 2 rebounds on 8 of 11 shooting, 1 of 4 from three. He was getting to the rim at will. He was shifty in the paint. And before we talk about this game, I want to go back to his last game because he was 0 of 3 from the field against Marquette, 0 of 1 from three, and had 4 free throws and 4 fouls. He did have the 8 assists, but a major bounce back performance for Tatum Connerway, and he earned player of the game honors for me.
Yeah, Conaway is one of those guys that I think last year he scored a pretty high clip for Troy, if I'm not mistaken. He's one of the guys that really controls the offense no matter if he's scoring or not. He doesn't necessarily need the ball in his hands, although the offense is so much better when he does have the basketball and he's facilitating the offense flows a little bit more. And you talked about Milwaukee's game plan of trying to shut down Tucker DeVries. Well, Conway said in the press conference, it left me on an island. It left me one-on-one the entire night. And he's as capable of a scorer as you're going to find when it's just a one-on-one matchup. His ability to get to the rim and distribute as well. He had 6 assists to go along with the 8 made baskets he had. He was getting to the rim, and of course, he defends at a high level. And the highlight of the night was him diving for a loose ball back in the backcourt, up 25 points in the game, up 24 points with a few minutes left. He's diving for a ball. Gets probably the loudest cheer of the night. Conway's probably my favorite player to watch on this team from the sense of he controls almost everything at the center on defense because of how good of a defender and aggressive a defender he is. And the offense just runs so much better when he is involved. He's probably my favorite player to watch this team play.
I feel like he flies under the radar offensively because the other guards in the backcourt with him and DeVries and Wilkerson command so much attention, and both of them could command a double team at any time. That leaves Conway with some open cutting lanes, and he found them. There were numerous times where Wilkerson would find Conway on a back cut, or Conway would find himself free with a double team on somebody else, and he would just get to the rim at will. And when Conway's able to get an open space, I mean, he was 8 of 11 from the field, didn't necessarily utilize the three-point shot. He didn't need to. But then when you get Conway going, that opens the door for Lamar Wilkerson and Tucker DeVries. It's kind of the flip. When Conway started to pick up steam and get doubled, then you saw DeVries start to open up a little bit in the second half. You saw Wilkerson continue to pour in points from the three-point arc, and that trio is so difficult to defend.
They all hurt you in a little bit of a different way. So Conway can get to the rim, but so can DeVries. He can attack you anywhere out. Wilkerson's one of the best knockdown shooters. We're going to see if he gets any space. I want to touch on Reed Bailey too, because the way he plays inside, if Conway's driving to the hoop and now you have to stretch the floor, Bailey stepped out and hit a 3-point shot. And on offense, he's involved in a lot of that pick and roll action where if you screen with Conway up top and he flips to the hoop, you have to send at least help defender to Bailey, who's 6'10" and actually played all right inside yesterday. Pretty good in the painted area. And now if you're sending help, you're immediately leaving one of DeVries or Wilkerson open. And yesterday it was Wilkerson. I went back and watched the game a little bit. When he's not the one involved in the pick and roll, it was Conway and Reed Bailey. He would just come off a back screen on the weak side, wide open for a three, because they have to have so much gravity to the way that Conway attacks the basket, the shooting ability of Tucker DeVries. And then you're leaving Lamar Wilkerson, who's also one of the best 3-point shooters in the country as well. So it's kind of pick your poison with this Indiana team, and they look to have no issues on offense at this point in time.
Noah, have we established if you are a yes or no on the plus minus train?
I'm impartial. I think it's somewhat useless at some points because like you could be playing very, very well yourself, and other teams could just hit a whole bunch of shots, and your plus minus is absolutely awful. So it's not a great thing sometimes. But I'm also on the train of it's important if you have a plus 27 plus minus. Like that's important.
Well, let's take a look. So we talk about Tucker DeVries having an off night, 12 points, 4 of 10 shooting, leads the team in plus minus at a plus 31. You look at Tatum Conway, who we talked about as probably the player of the game offensively, maybe player of the game, period, plus 28, second on the team. So those two guys it's kind of a dichotomy where DeVries was guarded closely, but still made an impact because of the gravity that he has. And then Conway stepped in with the gravity towards DeVries, and both of them made what some would argue to be the biggest impact, at least plus minus wise, on this team.
Yeah, I was talking earlier about this with one of my friends, and this has got to be an impossible team to scout at this point in the year. Like, what do you do defensively against Indiana? Do you try to take away DeVries and Wilkerson and make them beat you from the inside? Okay, well, there's Bailey and Conway's going to be on an island, and then you have Enright. Oh, and off the bench, you have Sam Alexis and Josiah Miles, who seemingly get to the rim at will sometimes. This has got to be one of the hardest teams to scout right now in the country, outside of maybe Michigan, who's got 3 6'10" guys that can all dribble the basketball at a high level. Like Indiana might be one of the toughest teams to try to defend because of the style of play and how many different weapons they have to hurt you. And that was a bit of concern at the beginning of the season is how these different style of plays were going to mesh together. They're completely unselfish, and they've each still got that pretty sound skill set to hurt you.
And you also look at the bench pieces, and Josiah Miles is a wild card. Nick Dorn is a wild card. Trent Sisley is a wild card. We don't know what these guys are going to look like at their full roles as Miles and Dorn are coming off injuries and getting more comfortable with this team off the bench. Trent Sisley growing into a role as a true freshman. And Sam Alexis, he had a quiet night, 3 points, 1 of 2 shooting, and Indiana didn't really need him. He wasn't on the floor too much. But there are so many routes that this team can take lineup wise where you can prioritize shooting. You can prioritize having your bigs in there. You can prioritize being quick. You can prioritize defense. There may not be a lot of available players right now, but you can match them up in a way that can get different things done, depending on what guys you have out on the floor. And we've seen that a little bit, but I'm really excited to see how that plays out in a game that we expect to be tighter.
And it's only going to get better when you get also Jason Drake and Josh Harris back from injury. Just two completely different skill sets that will help as well. But right now, Coach DeVries seems to be pushing all the right buttons when it comes to who's playing when on the floor, who's playing with each other. There was a lineup last night that I turned and Graham Nash was sitting next to me. I was like, this would be an interesting offensive few possessions because I was curious. I think it was Enright, Connerway, Bailey, Sisley, and Josiah Miles. I was like, I'm very intrigued to see how they score on offense. Very first possession, Connerway drives, swings to Bailey, wide open corner three for Sisley, and he hit it. I was like, I don't know what to say. They find ways. They find ways to get open shots. They find ways to create good looks, and they capitalize on seemingly every opportunity they have on offense. They're making the most of it.
Let's talk about a guy who capitalized on his first minutes at Indiana. Nick Dorn, it was a weird way that he began his Hoosier tenure. He played 2 minutes in the first half, took one shot attempt. It looked like a three, it was a two. His foot was on the line, but he hit it. And then he came out and didn't come back in until like at least after the under 8 in the second half, I think. And then
Yeah,
he
he was in foul trouble early in the first half. He had two fouls in the first minute and a half he was in the game.
Yeah, that makes more sense. I was on the radio call, so I was not paying as much attention to that. But at any rate, Dorn came in the second half, hit a three, and hit the layup to put Indiana over 100 at 101. I mean, Dorn was a 15-point per game scorer at Elon last year. And with the lack of scoring that Connor Enright provides in the starting lineup, well, he does provide so many other things, I should say. If Indiana's in desperate need of a fully offensive lineup, you plug Nick Dorn into that starting group. I don't know how you guard that.
And especially his build too. He was so active on the glass. He pulled down three rebounds. I think two of them were on the offensive end. A big physical guard that's super athletic. We haven't even seen him at his best because he's still coming off an injury. He's still working back into that full shape. But Coach DeVries said he's not afraid to shoot over anybody. When they were giving our player previews at the beginning of the year, that's what we talked about with Nick Dorn. He can guard 1 through 4, and if he can shoot over anybody, he can also get to the rim. And he's another offensive dynamic where if you have a guy like Connerway who's distributing the ball as well as he is thus far, if you need just a pure offensive set, you can take Connor Enright out and you can throw Nick Dorn in there, who's a very talented scorer. And now you look across the arc and you've got five guys that can knock down the 3 point shot and two or three guys that can go get their own shot off the dribble at any time.
No, it's crazy that I'm asking you this question again, but we had two more highlight plays that I'm going to have you rank. And it just we're not used to having this many of them. All right, here we go. We have the off the backboard lob from Connor Enright to Reed Bailey, and that's the second time Bailey's gotten one off the backboard. And then we have the third chance opportunity putback jam from Josiah Miles late in the game after Dorn put up an offensive rebound shot that missed. Miles came flying in off after he missed a three to start that possession.
I like the lob off the backboard. There's consecutive games we've had it now at home. It's awesome. It gets the people going. It's cool to see that. It's a very modern style thing. The putback jam, all-time classic. Everyone loves the putback jam. That was a little bit later in the game when it was kind of already decided. Early on in the game, you get a lob off the backboard. The juices are flowing. Assembly Hall is rocking, which, by the way, the students shout out again, all the way almost towards the back line. The fan support seemingly is there, and it's only going to grow with time if they continue to play on offense. I like the lob at the beginning of the game to kind of set the tone of, hey, this is Indiana basketball, and we're going to be a fun team to watch.
I'm going to give you two more. These are both 3-point shots. You have the Lamar Wilkerson late in the shot clock. I'm standing 30 feet away from the rim straight away. I'll just shoot it. Or the other, Tucker DeVries gets it back at the logo and steps up about 3 feet behind the arc straight away, crosses his man over, steps back, and drains it.
I like both. I think I'm going to go with DeVries in the sense of everybody was kind of waiting for him to get the lid off the rim a little bit for him, and their focus, Milwaukee's, was so heavily on Tucker DeVries that when he hit that, the place exploded. But Lamar's, he sat there, realized the defender was just not there or not close enough to him, and just shot it over him with extreme confidence and drilled it. I'm going to go with DeVries because in the moment it seemed like he needed it more, but both from about what do you say, 30 feet out?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd probably go with Tucker's at the moment because the crossover move was sweet, man. And just the smooth stroke that he has, extreme confidence from that far away. I mean, it was pure.
I think both of them are a sign of the times for Indiana because if you were thinking about that situation, probably what, 10 on the shot clock for both of them in the Mike Woodson era, you'd probably see one more pass down low to try and get like a post hook with 2 seconds left on the shot clock. No, they have an open look for three from 30 feet away and they're going to hit it. And we've said it all year, but it's so refreshing.
My favorite play of the night wasn't any of the ones that you named. My favorite play of the night was Tate Conaway going after the loose ball up 24 points because Indiana basketball, at least Indiana basketball fans have always prided themselves on playing hard, doing all the little things. And that's those type of players they've loved the most. They loved the Trey Galloways. They loved the Zach McRoberts back in the day that did every little thing for your team to help you in, even if it wasn't on the scoreboard. And you're up 24 at home against a non-conference opponent. It's going to be Indiana ball anyway. There's no reason or there's no motivation to go dive after that loose ball. Well, Connery goes flying into the bench. Doesn't end up getting it, smiling on the side of the bench with all the guys picking him up. And the crowd exploded. The crowd loved it. And seeing that he cares that much, seeing that this team cares so much about every little detail at every second of the game, no matter the score, opponent, time, or place, that was the best play of the night, in my opinion. And it says a lot about this group and how Coach DeVries has these guys wanting to play.
I think my favorite moment off the court from last night I mean, it's happened for both home games, but when the players high five all the courtside fans and DeVries makes an effort to talk to every fan sitting courtside and give them fist pumps and thank them for coming. It's reestablishing that relationship between the fans and the team and really making the team feel like part of the university, part of the student body again, which it hasn't felt like in a very long time for Indiana basketball. And sure, everything on the court was great, but if you don't engage yourself with the community that you play for and you don't make an effort to represent the name on the front of your jersey, what is it worth? And with Indiana and DeVries reestablishing that connection, and after every game, after every win, um, still high-fiving fans, thanking them, engaging with them, talking with them, and crediting them. It is it's a really cool thing to see, and I'm a very big fan of it.
You saw it with football last year when the players would run towards the student section after the big wins. It makes you feel a lot closer to the athletes. Obviously, IU basketball players have always seemed like celebrities. They're always viewed as celebrities on campus because of how big Indiana basketball is. But it makes you as a fan feel a little bit closer, a little bit more connected, a little bit more a part of everything that this team does. And it helps you appreciate the successes and the roller coaster effects that the season's going to have on you.
As we wrap up here, we'll ask you to give us your favorite moments, what you love about Indiana basketball, and the changes that are happening under Darren DeVries as we enter the mailbag segment. We have one today. It is from at 9BOwen12 on Instagram. That is Brady Owen. He's a photographer with the Hoosier Network on campus. He says this team will be a top 20 team at some point this year.
Well, if you do recall at the beginning of the year, I made a bold prediction in our season preview, and I said Indiana would find themselves in the top 15 of the AP poll this year. I didn't know how it was going to play out. Nobody really knew about this team, and now seemingly the style of play this team provides, the way they defend, the way that they have played up to this point against competition, regardless. Doesn't matter the level of competition. Marquette's a pretty good program of recent. Milwaukee's picked to win their conference. They've got some more games coming up. There's a belief around campus, and I'm all for it. I'm still on the trip that Indiana can be a top 15 at some point this year. If they keep playing the way they're playing, they've got the games in the non-conference schedule towards the back half. They can really line things up to be right in pole position to do that. I love the take. Top 20 team. I'll go as far as saying I still think they're going to be top 15 at some point this year.
Your prediction is looking less and less bold by the day. Indiana is currently ranked 17th in the KenPom, and it's still early, but that is a top 20 statistical ranking for the computer rankings. We'll keep an eye on the KenPom as the season goes on, but number 17, one spot behind Wisconsin, two spots behind Michigan, and one spot ahead of BYU, who I think will win the Big 12. And I said that on a IUS TV show, and I will stick to that. That's on tape. Cougars for the Big 12. That'll wrap up their mailbag segment. You can contact us at House of Hoosier with voicemail at our phone line of 812-269-6478. And that's 812-269-6478. Our Instagram is at House of Hoosier, HOUSEOFHOOSIER. And our Twitter is at House_Hoosier. So those are the ways you can message us. Send us anything you want about Indiana basketball, your opinions, thoughts, likes, dislikes. We'll take a look at them and respond to them right here on future shows. That wraps up our weekly recap. Indiana 2-0 on the week since we last recorded. 100-77 a win over Marquette. 101-70 a win over Milwaukee. Noah, final thoughts from the week.
Well, first thing, if you guys haven't followed the Instagram page, you should do so. We have game recaps right after the game on the court. We do our coast to coast little segment. If you haven't checked that out, pretty good stuff. We've got highlights from the podcast as well. That's House of Hoosier on Instagram. Just had to get the little plug in there for the Instagram because we work hard for this stuff and we appreciate the support any way we can get it. Final thoughts. Indiana basketball is fun. I'm excited to see on Sunday. I think they got Incarnate Word at 5:30. It's another one of those games where it's going to be, is Indiana ready to go? It's a Sunday, it's an afternoon, and we're going to see how the offense plays against another different style opponent. Incarnate Word likes to play things a little bit slower than Milwaukee does. Indiana basketball is fun, a big win over a pretty good program in Marquette, and you follow it up. You don't have a hangover game. You beat Milwaukee. I'm really happy with the way Indiana's played thus far, and I think it's setting us up for a quite exciting season.
Fully agreed on everything you just said. I am excited to watch this team. I'm excited to be at the games, and I'm excited to watch these players and the style of Indiana basketball. And that's something that I struggled to do last year and in years past. Let us know all your thoughts at the places we just said in our mailbag segment, our phone line, our Instagram, Twitter. Again, the Instagram is at House of Hoosier. The Twitter is at House_Hoosier. Indiana 2-0 on the week, 101-70 over Milwaukee, 100-77 over Marquette. That'll wrap up our weekly recap on another episode of the House of Hoosier podcast presented by the Field of 68 Podcast Network. We'll see you next time after Indiana plays in